for joining us here on a Saturday morning. Today is Saturday, October 16th, and very excited to be able to share with you about something that is a very interesting topic, one that I think all of us as real estate investors can really benefit from. And so we have a speaker today, a guest who will be able to enlighten us as it relates to this whole topic of public adjusters and what exactly are they? Because until I met Mr. Joshua Douglas, I didn't know myself. And so I imagine other folks may not as well, but I think what you'll find is that it's a really interesting topic, and one that, again, could add to our strategy as we look for commercial real estate properties that we're looking to acquire. With that, again, welcome to Redeem Saturday School is what we call this monthly webinar. And before we jump in, I hand over to Joshua. I want to go through just a couple of topics as we usually do. The name of our company is called Redeem Investments. Renovating properties, transforming lives really is our tagline. I'll tell you more about what we do here in a minute. Just a quick disclaimer: definitely not an attorney, not a licensed investment advisor, not an accountant. The things that we talk about are strictly for educational purposes only, and sharing from my experience. The way our company is structured, under Redeem Investments, we have a mastermind group. This event that we host on a monthly basis is one of the meetings and events that we do on behalf of our mastermind members. The three areas within our company are the residential side, which is Redeem Realty Solutions, Redeem Commercial Real Estate, and then Redeem Renewable Energy. We're not doing a whole lot with regards to residential at this point. However, occasionally we'll have a wholesale residential deal that sort of falls into our lap. Within the context of investment funds is really how we're pursuing and operating both our commercial real estate and our renewable energy lines of business. So what is a mastermind? I mean, I do want to define that real quick because it varies depending on who you're talking to. The way that we structure our mastermind is it truly is a JV partnership program, not simply for educational purposes or participation in a network, but really it's a joint venture partnership program. So as we identify opportunities for us to acquire, the members of our mastermind actually partner alongside us to serve as general partners and sponsors for those deals, which is pretty unique because not every structure offers that. Provides access to resources, training, sort of like we're doing today, meetings and events, we do limit it to about 50 members or so as to not get sort of overwhelming for us to manage all the needs of every member, but also to make sure that the level of intimacy and relationship and things like that within for our members is maintained. Who some of our members are, I'll run down this list real quick. You can see them for yourself, but really a lot of smart people who are experts in their own right in various different fields across industry, military, and these are folks that are part of our group. So really excited to have them be part of that. As far as who can or how can people participate, often I get asked this question. Simply go into our website, which is redeeminvestments.com. If folks want to invest with us, they send an email to invest@redeeminvestments.com, and then if they want to join the mastermind, they go straight to our website, and there's a mastermind section there. Again, just as a reminder, it's a JV partnership program, really ideal for those who are looking to become general partners or learn how to do syndication, fund manager stuff, and just all the things that come with running a private placement, whether that's real estate or anything else. We do have opportunities for folks to participate as a limited partner in our deals as well, and so that is something that people could participate in, but really I wouldn't advise them to join the mastermind if they're simply looking to be a limited partner. As far as events, I mentioned these are some of the things that we've done over the course of the year already, some of the topics that we covered. We had a retreat in July in Cancun. And then, as of today, this is what we're going to be talking about. And then next month, we have our next meetup event, which is taking place that coincides with the Army Air Force game on November 6th in Dallas. Very excited about that. And then the last meeting of the year will be in December and this is typically on the second Tuesday of every month. We had to make some modifications for this month. So with that, let me just tee up the fact that with regards to the wealth formula, by no means have I arrived in this area myself, but I do understand how folks historically have been building wealth. And typically the base of that is making money. The second tier of that is keeping the money that you've made. And then lastly, it's multiplying that money. As it relates to what we're talking about today, it really is a combination of some of these areas, primarily that second and then the top tier. And I'll get into that in a moment. But the bottom line up front is simply that commercial real estate is where it's at, and that's where we've hung our hat. This is some photos of a property that we have. We're actually going to go tour here on November 6th. It's right across the street from Cowboy Stadium in Arlington. There's a picture from the parking lot of Cowboy Stadium at the top of the dome. So why do we enjoy or really like commercial real estate? It's for these reasons. You can read it for yourself. But this last one, capital preservation, that I've got in bold, really is where we're spending time today talking about how to work with public adjusters. For those that joined or watched the replay of last month's webinar, it was talking about risk management and asset protection, so using commercial insurance. And this is strategically positioned right after that to talk about how to maximize your return on investment as it relates to insurance, which Josh will be able to talk us through today. So with that, let me hand it over to Joshua, and I'll pull up your slides. Or actually, you can go ahead and share your slides, Joshua. But before that, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, explaining who you are, what you do, and then get into it, man. I think this is a very exciting topic that my hope is that the folks attending and the ones that will watch this will benefit from greatly.
Awesome. Well, Christian, I want to thank you for having me on today. I always appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. And I think just the program in general of what you're doing, building wealth through real estate, it's a wonderful vehicle. It's time and tested and proven. And it's a cool thing. So I appreciate you letting me be part of that or contribute however I can.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Awesome. I think you can see me, right? And I'm going to do.
Go ahead and share your screen. I can see you.
Okay, share. Let's see if I can just do this window. Are you at, can you see this slide deck?
Yes, sir.
Oh, let's go. Okay, I think we might be at the front. Okay, so first, I just kind of want to talk about the landscape in general. Public adjusting is a needed business just because there's kind of a conflict of interest on every single insurance claim. The way the insurance is supposed to work is it's supposed to pool risk. So everybody pays in, and because you don't know if you're going to be, let's just call it a hailstorm. I don't know if my building is going to get hit with a catastrophic hailstorm. And I want to ensure that if it does happen, that I get covered. But the way that it works is all of my neighbors and everyone all across Texas, everyone pays into a pool. And then in that pool, the few people that are actually hit with the insurance or actually hit with the catastrophe, the pool pays for that person. So that's it in theory. But in practice, it's very different when these insurance companies are private and they make decisions based on a profit motive. So what happens is that everybody pays in, and we're supposed to trust that the insurance company will pay out. But a lot of times what happens is that when you're paying them money, they will remember your birthday. They have a ton of salespeople that they pay a lot of money to make sure that you are paying them premiums, which is in that part is totally fine that you want to be in this risk pool versus that risk pool. However, when it comes to paying out claims, this is now profitability. So any money that they pay out goes to the contractor, but any money they don't pay out, they just keep. It's not saved somewhere else for the pool itself. They do have to have reserves, but any money that they can keep, that they don't pay out, they just keep. The other kind of conflict of interest situation here is every single storm or fire, any damage from a let's say a hailstorm, is going to be highly subjective. Is how much of the building was actually damaged. They don't replace every single roof. They replace what they figure is damaged from that event. But it's very, very difficult to determine, especially as these roofs get older, what was damaged today, or what was damaged before, or what was damaged mechanically, or what was damaged from the actual, we call it like a insurable event. And the insurance company's person, the person they pay, is the person who makes that call. There's also widely different construction prices. Labor fluctuates all the time. Products fluctuate all the time, every single month. Now, some of it is standardized. Xactimate is a tool that is high margin for the contractor for every piece of construction material. Labor is X number of dollars. Roofing per square foot is X number of dollars. Screws are X number of dollars. Gutters are X number of dollars. So that part is standardized. However, what if they're going to replace it and they put it on that sheet is not. It's very, very subjective. So what the insurance company would love to do is if you think that you think you were affected by a hailstorm, they would love for you to call them up directly, and then they want to send their person out there, and then their person gets up on the roof, and then their person comes down, shakes your hand, looks you in the eye, and says, "We're going to take care of this," and then sends you the smallest check ever or denies it and says, "Actually, your roof's fine. You're not in bad shape." I've seen it happen all the time. That's what they want to do. And they're able to really, really limit their exposure by doing that, because your responsibility in this insurance, in this whole insurance process, is you are responsible for double checking their work. But they prey off your ignorance, and they know that you've probably never been in a catastrophic hailstorm, or if you have, you do it once in 20 years, that you're not an expert in the law. You don't know what they have to pay, when they have to pay, if they have to pay. And you also don't know the cost of construction.
Hey Joshua, can I stop you there? And if you don't mind, I forgot to mention this to the group that's on. If you guys have questions as Joshua is speaking or as I'm speaking, please input those into the chat, and I'll monitor those and pose those questions for Joshua. But I did want to ask this question because some of us, like I was unaware. You know, the thinking is that should you experience some kind of damage, that's what you have insurance for, and that's what you're supposed to do, is contact your insurance provider and say, "Hey, I had a situation come up," and that's the process, right? And so maybe explain, and I think you'll get into this, how there's a different approach, because I had no idea that your industry even existed, quite honestly, and was pleased to find that. But yeah, can you explain that a little bit, so that way folks who are on either for commercial property that they might own, or I don't know if this is also applicable in the residential realm, but maybe just speak more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to know kind of the standard to even understand why public adjuster would even need to exist. If they were honest, if the insurance company was honest and they came out and did a fair assessment, I might not be so relevant. However, they're not only not honest, but even honest people could have a difference of opinion. So you could have one adjuster would come out here and look at your entire building and say, "This is damaged, this is damaged, this is damaged," and he'll write up an estimate for what he owes you. But you could have another adjuster, just because he's a different person, same experience, come up with a different estimate, which will come up with different dollar amounts, which will ultimately be different investment into your real property. So the way to balance the scales on that is, because they are preying on your ignorance, is every state will license people to represent you. So just exactly the same way as you would if you were getting sued, you can represent yourself in court. But if they have an attorney, you probably should have an attorney. If a good attorney is the best, a bad attorney is the second best, and the worst case scenario is you represent yourself. It's the absolute. And yeah, and so when we were talking about in an insurance claim, the insurance company would love to send out their adjuster that they are paying, and that person not only has the final say, has the only say. And but you have the right. Every single Texas property owner has the right to hire a public adjuster. Now that's going to be at your own cost. The insurance company doesn't have to pay for that because they say, well, we've already got an adjuster. He's more than
For
fair.
sure. Well, actually, that's a good point. Is this only applicable in the state of Texas, or is this something that's available in other states?
So every state regulates them separately. So most states, I think, other than Alabama, have a public adjuster. In Alabama, the lawyers lobby says you can't be a public adjuster because that's acting like a lawyer. So they protect their own business. You have to hire a lawyer to represent you in an insurance claim. But almost every other state has some version of this, and every state regulates them differently what our powers are. Texas is very, very property owner friendly. So I'm a very, very powerful entity in Texas. I can be very aggressive with insurance companies, and they normally comply with what I want them to do because of the teeth that I have.
Sure. Okay. You're not sharing your screen any longer. For some reason, I can't see it. But if you want to share that, I know that you've got a presentation prepared. If you want to go through that and share more, I think this is awesome stuff.
Sure. I do want to. I kind of want to lay the ground out first, and then we'll get into some of the nitty gritty. Yeah. So the insurance company would like to just run the whole show. But normally what we're looking at, if they do it, they're going to pay you about 20 cents on the dollar. And what that means is if the claim is worth about $100,000 that they owe, they will come out, they'll walk around, their adjuster will look and see, we have about $100,000 worth of exposure here, and he will write up an estimate for $20,000 or less. And I'm going to repeat that. If it's worth $100,000, they will write $20,000 and hope that you think it's a lot of money. Wow. It's absolute highway robbery, and I see it over and over and over. But they're preying on the ignorance of the insured. They know that this is one of the worst days that ever happened to them. If this is your home or your business, and it's a catastrophic event, that it's an awful day. You're emotional about it, and that you don't know construction costs and you don't know what storm damage even looks like. A lot of times when they should replace something, they'll just paint over it. That happens all the time. And now, because you don't have the tools to get inside the wall, you don't know there's water in it, that it looks better, at least for now, and it's now not their problem. So with that, I can show some numbers here on kind of what that looks like on being represented. For the most part, I have more experience. I've been doing this for 13 years. I have more experience than the adjuster that I'm working with. A company guy will usually have 1 to 3, and an independent guy will have 7 to 8, something like that. And a lot of times I can now take control of that conversation. So we'll get into this a little bit more. We do commercial roofing quite a bit. I'm going to skip through some of this because it's a lot of times we work with your roofer. Actually, we maybe should have that conversation too. What a lot of times your only advocate is your roofing contractor, is that he's interested in getting your roof replaced. And what we call it's kind of like jailhouse lawyering. Like if you've been arrested for the first time ever in your life and you're sitting in a jail cell and you go, I don't know what's going to happen to me. And you have somebody over there in your jail cell that's been arrested 30 times. He's going to know the system better than you, and he might start giving you legal advice. Of course, that doesn't make him a lawyer because he gets arrested a lot, but that's kind of what your roofer does. He's seen a lot of these deals go by way more than you. So he thinks he can advise you. However, in Texas, it is illegal to do. He cannot represent you in any way on a roofing job that he's getting paid on. So he can give you advice, but if the insurance company says, we're not going to pay you very much, and the roofer argues with him, they can say, are you acting like a public adjuster? And immediately they have to stop talking.
I see.
And that's a really important distinction. However, if you bring in a licensed public adjuster, we can represent you legally. We can change the entire conversation with the insurance company, and we work hand in hand with your roofer. Every good roofer should have a public adjuster on his team. If he doesn't, it's probably just because he couldn't find one. But for you as the insured, you always have the opportunity to hire a public adjuster. And if it's a good deal for us, I'd be happy to be that person for you. If it's not our business, I'd be happy to refer you to somebody else. So I'm going to click in here. So on every single insurance claim, it's always best to have me look at it first and me make the claim for you. A lot of times I will have contact at that insurance company because we do so many of these. Sometimes if it's a friend, I can just call and get it done right away. I'll take the pictures, I'll write the reports, and by the time the carrier ever knows that there's a claim, all of the work has been done, and now they have to disprove me versus them going out and I have to disprove them. So this is another issue that I'd like to talk about is a commercial claim can take very long. However, if I'm in from the very beginning and I don't come in to try to appeal somebody else's decision, I can speed that process up quite a bit. And I have so much control and ability to work for you. The way our relationship would work is I have a fiduciary towards the insured, like whoever bought the policy. So that means there's like a kind of fancy way of saying, I have to do everything in my power. I'm legally bound to do everything in my power that's best for you. So there's going to be a lot of conversations I'm going to have that you're not going to be a part of, and that you can continue to be a real estate investor or anything else you do with your time. And I'm fully able to speak for you, negotiate for you, make deals for you to make that happen quicker.
Yeah.
And now fees, like a public adjuster is hired by the insured, and we charge 10% of the total awarded claim. The reason that I like this fee set up is if you hire a lawyer, a lot of times they'll charge a retainer to look at your case. That's money that they get to just for their time, and then they charge you by the hour. If the result works out, great. If the result doesn't work out great, that's kind of on you, and they'll just say it was a bad case. However, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that makes any sense that I would pay somebody to work slower, and I have to trust and just that they audit themselves on billing hourly, and our interests are disaligned. For what I like this fee structure is I don't ask for any money up front. I'm only going to take a claim or a case if I think we have a good chance to win, because I'm working on contingency, and I have a 10% interest. So that means I want my 10% to be larger. Means I have to make the entire claim larger. We're 90-10 partners now at that point, and so you can ensure that I'm going to work as fast as I can and for as much money as I can, and I'm only paid on results.
Yeah, let me make a comment on this, because I think part of the mindset for investors, for real estate investors, as you sort of grow and mature, is the understanding that you want to pay professionals to do what professionals do, and I love that. I love this structure, and especially if you go back to what you said earlier, if really the payout from an insurance claim, if you're filing it directly, is only 20% of 100, and if you're able to get that full 100, and I have to give up 10%, I'm still getting 90 versus the 20. You know what I mean? So there's still a 70% spread there that I'm getting from partnering with somebody like you to work on my behalf. So I love this model.
I absolutely, and then those numbers add up all of the time. So it ends up being I am being paid by the insured and being paid out of this claim, but your net is so much larger by being represented. And I like to show a little bit of that right here. So some of the solutions around that is we want to get involved early. I don't want the adjuster to come out and be able to kind of run the show. I want to have done everything before he ever gets there. So when he shows up, I hand him a report. And a lot of times he doesn't want to have to redo this. He'll spot check it, usually look at 3 different things, double check that. If all of that lines up, he's going to assume the rest of it lines up too. A lot of times we can get that deal done that day. If there is supplementals, or he doesn't want to have to buy that whole roof that day, which does happen a lot, or he doesn't want to buy the decking below, sometimes we can continue on that process, or he might have to even hand it up to a higher up in his company. A lot of times with the initial adjusters, he'll come out and he's allowed to deny the claim, but he cannot replace your entire roof. Like, that's not his authority level. So a lot of times we'll just push us right up to that next authority level. And it'll happen much, much quicker in the event that I have full control of it early at the beginning. And then for the fees, I'd like to just kind of look at some success stories we've had in the past.
Yeah.
So this is a apartment complex I think, Christian, you might be able to enlighten me a little bit more on this. I think it's like a B class property. What would that look like to you?
Yeah, I would say that's a class B. Vintage appears to be like early 80s. Um, uh, covered roofs. Yeah, so I would call that a class B.
Okay, and I think a lot of these are in your portfolio, right? This is the kind of stuff you look for.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to buy something like this.
So this was a local property owner, a small kind of mom and pop. I think he owned maybe 6 properties like this in San Angelo, and they had 2 storms. They had a storm that happened in, I think this is in April, and then there was another storm that happened in May, and he changed insurance companies on May 1st. So when the storm happens and the roofs are badly damaged from the hailstorm, the one insurance company says, "Oh, it wasn't our claim; it's a claim after," and the next insurance company says, "It's not our claim; it's a claim before." And it happens all the time. Anything they can do to get out of it. So now it's a pre-existing damage, or we weren't insured for that period, or okay, maybe we were insured for that period, but it's not really damaged. We'll replace the gutters. That was the conversation once I got it. When I got to it, they had been dealing with the insurance company, both insurance companies, for over a year.
Oh wow.
And here's their estimate. This is done by Vericlaim. It's a quote unquote independent adjustment firm. However, they get paid by the carrier, and they know where their bread is buttered. If they start writing up these huge estimates, they're not going to get hired back next time. So when their independent assessment comes up very little, and this is the estimate that they wrote up on that entire building. All of that shingle roof was badly damaged from the hailstorm. It's obvious. However, they decided they want to write up a couple of squares of composition shingle, the roof caps, and the roof vents. And all of these prices are fixed. So this much quantity, these fixed prices, comes out to this replacement cost value of $8,000. Of course, minus your deductible, which is $25,000. Where would you like me to send your $0 check to, Mr. Insured?
That's horrible.
That's the worst, right? Like, why on earth do we even make a claim? And now there's record that this has been paid out, and the roof is made whole in their opinion, and for $0. So we came in on this exact same roof. We took them to appraisal, which is a forced mediation, and got everything replaced, plus overhead and profit, which is each 10%, and taxes. So just one of these would be our fee. All of the rest of this is money directly into the hand of the insured for $736,000.
Oh, that's nuts. So this is net of the fee paid to you?
This is not. This is gross. So
Okay.
fees would come out of this. But if you're again, we're looking at that was $8,000 estimate minus $25,000 deductibles, $0. This one, the net to the insured would probably been a little over $500,000.
Okay.
And
All right.
well enough to replace all of those roofs and upgrade a lot of the rest of the building. I think they're actual contractors. So when you get this in cash, you can do anything you want with it. So if you want to use it for other projects, you can. You aren't allowed to. You can't replace the roof twice. So or get paid on the roof twice. So if they pay you this and you decide to use it for other things, the next time a hailstorm comes, you cannot ever get paid on that roof again. You're going to have to do that out of pocket. But what a lot of people do is they'll get a big fat chunk like this, shop the roofing contractor on the street. I think they got about this particular client got, and then now we start talking about return on investment on your insurance proceeds or your insurance premiums. Because I think he got a little over $500,000 after all the fees. And then he shopped around and got the whole roof replaced for $300,000, leaving him $225,000 over to use anything else that he'd like to use on the property. And when you work with the insurance company directly, they'll send you a small amount up front, and then after you get the work done, they send you the rest. But when you work with a public adjuster, we get all the money right up front, and you can use it for whatever you like. So it's much more control that you have being represented by a public adjuster.
Yeah, I like that. That's great.
So we'll move on one more. This is the Odessa Family YMCA. These are our kind of bread and butter roofs, these tar and gravel roofs. They're very expensive to replace and very difficult to find damage in. But with this one, I think they had 3-inch hail and badly damaged the parapet. This is the little wall that holds the rocks in. Really badly damaged it. But a lot of times the insurance company will only want to replace these soft metal because you can obviously see the hail, but they assume that anything under tar and gravel is never damaged because you can't see it. The damage is underneath. The rocks will be pushed into the membrane, but it's very difficult to see. And they assume that if you can't see it, it didn't happen. We're not replacing it. So similar situation here. Insurance company, quote unquote, independent insurance agency offers them $20,000. This much for general demolition. They did not even give them a estimate for line items. They just said $18,000 for quote unquote roofing, and then $100 for temporary repairs, for a total of $20,000. We came in on that exact same building and got them $316,000, and I think they ended up getting the roof done around $250,000.
Wow.
So yeah, again, we're looking. Our spread here is not quite 10 times. Or no, it is. It's well over. This is a 15 times spread on this particular roof claim because those tar and gravels, they just never replace the tar and gravel. However, to get it done right and by the book, you need to replace all of it. So we come in there, we find water in the roof. Says if there's a wet roof, you have to replace it. Of course, they don't like that, but we can always twist their arm. If they don't want to pay, we can take them to a mediation where I'm not going to convince them they need to pay. I convince a third party they need to pay. They have to defend against the third party they need to pay, and then that arbiter will decide how much they owe.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, much more fair. Go ahead.
No, I'm sort of just taking it in because I know what this could mean, and I'd love to be able to talk about a case study of a deal that we were just looking at preparing to contract with that you were very helpful in, and that being a strategy that we are exploring. But we can talk about that after your case studies here. But yeah, I definitely see the value in what you're able to do. Obviously, the numbers are a stark difference from what you would otherwise get from an insurance company. And so it only makes sense that when there's an actual event that occurs, that the first thing you want to do is dial up a public adjuster. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely right. In every sense of the word, we are hired to be a trained consultant. So we're going to help you with strategy. And again, we're fiduciary for you. So in no way am I a police officer, and in no way am I trying to be fair here. I'm on your team. You're hiring me to give you all of the ins and outs, very similar to the way a lawyer would. If there's certain things I'm going to tell you to leave off because it's not in your interest, I will tell you that. The insurance company 100% will lie to you in their interest. And I guess kind of the way that the law works is their lawyer lies for them, your lawyer lies for you, and so supposedly the truth comes out. That's kind of that's the premise. But you do yourself a huge disservice if their adjuster's lying for them and you don't have anybody making the facts look good in your favor. So that's kind of how this works out. I'll do one more just again for numbers, and then we'll kind of move on to something. But this is a YMCA again main complex in Odessa. There are I think over 600 squares, which is 100 square feet is a square of roofing, and it was bad. Like if you can see here on this soft metal, really badly damaged. Insurance company wanted to offer them about $800,000 on this whole claim for all of those sides, all of those walls. We counted over 600 actual holes in the membrane, and then they also drug their feet forever. Took forever to pay this estimate. We came in on that exact same deal, and we got them $5 million on that roof, including the decking underneath.
Wow, that to me is just unbelievable. I mean, I guess even the first number could seem impressive, but it also depends on, like 800,000 might sound great, but if it's going to cost 2 to 3 times that to actually replace it, then it's not that great.
Yes,
You know?
absolutely.
So
And what a lot of times the insurance company will do is because damage is so subjective, um, and construction costs are so subjective. What they want to do is they come out first and they lowball right away. They know that if they can get away from, if it's a $5 million exposure and I can get away with $800,000 or $1 million right off the bat, that's great, because there's other dominoes along the line that if they lowball here, you might either A, lowball your contractor and now he's taking the shorts, and or the contractor will cut corners on your roof because he's going to want $1 million job. So if you give him $1 million job and you say replace this roof, he's going to get up there and he's going to do whatever he can get done for $1 million because he's going to want that job. You will have somebody who will say, yes, I'll do it, but he's going to cut corners on the roof because he can't do a $5 million job with $1 million budget, but he can definitely do something for $1 million. So now on your piece of real estate is just significantly dropped in value. We call it putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. If they replace a Band-Aid, you can get a contractor to say, yep, I'll do a Band-Aid. You give me a Band-Aid budget, I'll give you a Band-Aid. And they'll do that. A lot of times it doesn't solve your problem. You will continue to have problems with that roof, and eventually you need to replace it. But getting it done right the first time is what you want to do. But if it's a $5 million roof, or even in this situation, you may be able to negotiate a $4 million roof and keep $1 million in your pocket. That's very possible. Every time that we come in on insurance claim, is the margins are supposed to be very fat. The contractor should be racing to get an insurance company deal. If you do competitive bid on the street where you bid them against each other, the bids come down significantly because, again, someone will give up a little margin if they can get the job. However, the insurance company is not the one who should be getting those savings. That should be the insured, the property owner, or you get the $5 million roof because you want the best contractor out there. You should not have to take the low bidder because the insurance company wants to save money. You should be able to get it done right because it was not your responsibility. It was not your fault in any way that the hailstorm hit your building. That's what they call an act of God. You had no control over it, and getting it done right is what they owe you, and we make sure that happens for you.
That brings up a good point, Joshua, in that, I think there's some concern about, well, if you file a claim, then doesn't that reflect badly on you as an insured, and don't your rates go up and that kind of thing? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, actually, it's very, very interesting the way that rule works. So yes and no. The way that if it's like with your car insurance, if you hit somebody, your rates go up. You were supposed to avoid them in some way, even if it's not your fault. Your rates will go up because there could have been something you could have done, and insurance companies are allowed to do that. However, on hailstorm, windstorm, they're what they call an act of God, which means there is absolutely nothing you could have done to move your real property away from that hailstorm. There's nothing you could have done to mitigate it, and by law they are not allowed to raise your premiums on a hailstorm or windstorm claim or hurricane claim. However, they are allowed to raise it on the zip code. So what ends up happening is the hailstorm will happen in the area. Insurance companies will have to pay for new roofs for the entire area, and then they will raise premiums on that zip code. Now, what that means is that all of your neighbors are paying for your roof, and you are paying for all your neighbors' roofs. So if you decide not to get your claim, you don't get those savings. Your neighbors will still make the claims, and you will still be paying for theirs. Your premiums will go up because they made a claim. Now, however, if you go get your roof, it's going to be split in that pool. So you will be paying increased premiums for that zip code, whether you get your roof or not. So it always behooves you to make a claim on an act of God situation, if it's legitimate, of course. And we're not talking about trying to make something out of nothing, something that doesn't exist. But in the event that you are owed, you never want to be paying for the lunch of everyone else and you didn't go get yours. It's kind of the way that we look at that. But no, you are not personally penalized for it. However, you would be personally penalized in not getting the roof if you choose not to.
Sure. Hey, how are forest fires treated? Just wondering about that. I mean, I don't think we have that issue here in Texas necessarily, but I know a fire inside of a building doesn't count as an act of God. But what about forest fires or something like that?
Yeah, that would be act of God. And all of those would be kind of case by case. Flood is a lot of times the same way too. If it's your pipe, that bursts, and it's your fault, or like a theft, if you left the door unlocked, then that does reflect on you. However, if the loss is enough, that would be a pro and con situation. You want to weigh the benefits of how much my premiums would go up on this building versus how much my loss is. But it's certain things like a forest fire where there wasn't anything you could do, or national emergency, those kind of things are case by case.
Okay.
And very possible to not be.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, cool. So again, we can kind of run through how the insurance company would like to do it. Is that the event happens and they want you to make the claim, and then the insurance company comes out, they do their own assessment, and they offer you something. What almost always happens is your contractor will accept the payment, start working, and if he doesn't have enough money halfway through the job, he's going to call and ask for a supplement. And the insurance company will say, well, how much do you really need? Do you really need it? They're going to needle him down. Again, try to get him to cut corners on your roof so that they can save money. And they want to look over his shoulder all the time and say, well, I don't know if you need that premium material. We can probably use this cheaper material. And because they're cutting the budget, they're creating the budget that they decide what materials go on that roof. And a lot of times your contractor is arguing for you, but he's not allowed to represent you. So he's kind of fighting with both hands behind his back. And you can represent yourself and you can argue with them. But again, you're now out of your wheelhouse. Kind of what Christian was saying is you're now being asked to be a professional in something where you don't have the experience. And a lot of times insurance companies will say, it doesn't work like that. And that's it. That's the response. You say, I need this material, not that material. It doesn't work like that. And then what do you say? What's the next thing? For us, we would say, I'd say that all the time. We'll go up there and I say, I need this material, not that material. And they say, it doesn't work like that. I pull out my tape recorder and say, just say that into this, say who you are, and say at what time that you've been notified that you need this material and that material, and you're refusing to pay your insured. Go ahead. Okay, great. Because I'm not gonna have an argument with him. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a case of bad faith that he knew, was aware the reason why this particular payment is warranted, and he's refusing. Not that he made a mistake, because what they always do is that they'll accidentally miss something, or they'll make honest mistakes. Honest mistakes do happen all the time, and they'll always make them in their own favor. And then if we ever go to court, we ever have to go to arbitration, they can say, "Oh, I didn't know. It was an honest mistake. Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe it was supposed to be the higher level underlayment. Okay, but that's an honest mistake. It's not. We didn't mean to." But when I do that with them up front and I record it, say you've been aware at this time, just tell me that you're refusing to pay. And then when we go to a bad faith conversation, it's very obvious and we win that. And in bad faith in insurance law is if the insurance company knows they're supposed to pay you, refuses to pay for you, and is proven bad faith, they have to pay the award, not the, let's say on the YMCA, not the $800,000 they thought they owed. They have to pay the $5 million that the arbiter eventually awarded, plus 3 times the money. So that would be a $20 million exposure for them.
Whoa!
So they get in trouble with their licensing for bad faith. So
that part I did not know. Wow.
They do not want to lose, and they don't even want to get sued for bad faith. Okay. But you have to have the goods. You can't.
Sure, of course.
You can't randomly just start throwing out. Well, we'll sue you for bad faith. Because they win a lot too. These frivolous lawsuits, they can get them thrown out. They have excellent lawyers, and they have they do have a legal team to defend them here. However, I've got a legal team that loves these cases. Just kind of what we just said: $5 million claim plus 3 times, $20 million award. I've got lawyers that line up for any case I ever take for bad faith, because they know that I've been setting them up from day one. And if we have a good case for bad faith, they'll take it on contingency, which means we're going to go after them for $20 million. They're going to get a chunk of the $20 million, but they'll do it all with no money out of your pocket, no retainers, no hourly. Just let us work on it.
Sure.
We don't want your money. We want the insurance company's money, and they have deep pockets. Yeah. They refuse to pay a lot, but they always have money.
Got it. Okay.
Cool. So here's a little bit more how we would like to do it. The hail event occurs. You contact your roofing contractor and us. And if you don't have a roofing contractor, I'm happy to refer you a ton that are very reputable and good. You contact me directly. I go out there, I inspect it, and I let you know. Look at your insurance policy, and then look at the damage and say, I think we have a good claim, or no, we don't. I think this one, it's not. We're not likely to win. Don't even worry about it. If in the event that I make that claim, I will take pictures, I will build reports, I'll contact the adjuster. You go back to whatever you were doing, your normal life or your real estate investing business. This is now not something that you have to worry about. The three things that the insurance company preys on is your ignorance, but then they also prey on this is not your full-time job and they want to wear you out. Email back, email back, email back, email back. You have to now read this, and now you picked up a job. Their adjuster is being paid by the hour. You are doing this on your own free time. They assume that you're going to get worn out, and or they want to hold you out. They're not going to pay. They're not going to release funds. They're going to say they're going to pay, and then it comes later, and it comes later, and it comes later. And they assume that over time, because this is your asset, you're going to figure something out. You're going to make this do. They owe the money, especially when we're talking about like loss of use, and that you're going to figure something out to make that asset perform for you again, because you don't want to continue to run the meter for a bill that may never get paid. And they know that. Yeah.
That's a very good point. I wonder if this is a good time to talk about sort of the strategy that we have explored with regards to acquiring an asset, and there's existing damage that can you talk to that? I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that on any property that's older that you have now, it's always good to get inspected every year to see if it was damaged in a hailstorm. And a lot of times we can get that replaced. But as far as an investor strategy, if you want to use this as one of your profitability buckets, what we can do a lot of times is we inspect the roof during the transaction. So there's a property that you want, we go look at it. We're going to inspect the roof to see how it is. If it was damaged in the last 2 years from a hailstorm, that insurance company or the seller, their insurance company is liable for that. And just the same way that you probably didn't know that your roof was damaged or you were going to be underpaid, they don't know either. A lot of these sellers are just as much in the dark, and they don't have a great public adjuster who works for them. So what you guys can do as partners, seller and buyer, is you look at the roof, and let's say the roof is damaged. You can recommend me to represent the insured or the seller. Now, I would work on the seller's behalf and have a fiduciary towards the seller. I do want you to know that. But what you guys can negotiate as terms of your deal is that whatever money I get goes to the new buyer, which would be you. And so a lot of times, on these like commercial retail spaces, is sometimes a third of the value of the building is tied up in the roof. So if let's call it a $3 million property, a lot of times I can get $1 million on that roof, that'll come in cash during your escrow period. Now you probably would want to replace that roof, but again, you're now in the driver's seat to negotiate that. Or if the roof doesn't really need to be replaced, it's damaged but doesn't need to be replaced, you can use that money for anything you need. Just be aware that you can't get the roof replaced twice.
Yeah.
But if it's a way to make the deal happen, like you're using that as part of your down payment or part of some other rehab efforts, it can be a very, very lucrative strategy, and it's free money picked up off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I can't overemphasize how creative and how important that type of a strategy is. In fact, there was a deal that we were pursuing here recently that we have since backed out of, just because we weren't able to come to final terms with the seller. But as part of the negotiation, that seller did in fact agree to assign proceeds over to me, because I had effectively negotiated and said, hey, we found damage on the roof. Here is the report from the roofer, but I would want to I want a claim filed, but I want it filed by my preferred public adjuster, and here's his contact information. And so part of what we need to sign is that there would be an assignment of those proceeds over to the buyer upon closing. And so there was agreement on that term or that provision. And so we were in a position, assuming that the claim came back at a maximum proceeds, to be able to get a significant amount, awarded to us or assigned over to us, that would have significantly helped with some of the other capital expense items that we had identified that needed to be addressed for that property. So I am looking to use this type of a strategy as we're identifying properties, especially in areas that I'm aware or know that there's been, hail damage or a hailstorm that has come through there. That's automatically part of the conversation. Joshua, can you speak to, like, what is the drawback for the seller? Like, what do they lose out on, if anything, if they agree to that kind of a arrangement? Anything?
Absolutely nothing. There's no other than maybe them trying to miss the opportunity you're trying to gain. There's no cost to them at all. If they're selling this property, there is no rates that are going up on it because it's not their property. The rates, the insurance was in all claims are after the fact. So you're not guessing about what's going forward. The insurance that was in place on that property at the time that already happened, that insurance company is liable for that liability. However, if he's selling that property, he does not care at all about those rates. It doesn't. That claim sticks with the property, and they'll know. There's a called clue report. They'll know there was a claim filed on that property, but it's now no longer his issue because he's selling the property to you. It's one of the easiest ways for a seller to incentivize a buyer, but that costs him absolutely nothing.
Nice. No, that's great. I love that approach. Okay, I know we're nearing the end of our time. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think we're okay. Other than that, it's questions and answers if you want to do that.
Yeah, so let me pause here.
Actually, I do have one more thing.
Yeah, please.
So we've been talking all after the fact, and that's where there is a lot of action and a lot of profitability that can be gained or lost in this after the event, after your insurance is in place situation, or even when we're going to look for other properties. It's still after the fact. We're looking at storms that already happened. However, if you're a real estate investor and if you're a buy and hold person, you're carrying insurance every year. And so when we're talking about what to buy, that's also a really, really important part of this conversation, that you want to buy insurance that if something happens, that you come out better. You don't want to buy insurance where they'll cover 70 or 80% of it, and 20% of it I'm taking the shorts if something catastrophic happens. It's very possible to get very good insurance and say, in the event that I get a hailstorm, I'm going to come up in this situation. I'm going to get a return on my investment. Very similar, like let's say I'm playing roulette and my number is always 7. I don't want to make double my money on 7. I want 35 to 1. And insurance pays out that way if you buy it correctly. So you always want to be aware of what your deductibles are. On some of these properties, they will do $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 deductible. That almost guarantees that we're not going to do a claim ever, because it kind of just subsidizes burning the entire thing to the ground. So it's very unlikely, and it's extreme catastrophe insurance. Whereas what you would want is, if a routine hailstorm comes through, I want to be able to use that as part of my capital expenditure long-term plan for how I'm going to replace this roof. The roof should last between 30 and 50 years if it doesn't get damaged. But here in Texas, it is very likely that a bad hailstorm will hit that building before 20 years. 1 in 20 year hail event happens with over 80% of Texas. 1 in 20 year hail event will replace the roof. So if I know that I'm buying and holding for the long haul, I expect, and if you're in certain areas of West Texas or DFW, that happens far more often than 1 in 20 years. Your roof will be replaced probably once every 8 years. And sometimes you'll get hit in back-to-back years. I got hit last year, replaced the roof, gets hit again. In Arlington, that was the case. There's a little window. And again, these hail swaths are irregular and very specific, but some of them have been hit replaced 3 times in the last 7 years.
Wow.
So if I know that I'm living in Texas, I'm buying properties in Texas, it's constantly in damage for hail. Let's plan. Let's plan that in the event that this happens, that this is part of my strategy. I can 100% help you up to the fact, but you want to make sure that you have good insurance in place. That way, in the event that it happens, you're covered well. So we just want to look at deductibles, and especially hail and wind deductibles. A lot of times, $10,000 or $1,000 deductible, think you have great insurance, and then your hail deductible is 5% of the total value of your property. Meaning, and I think actually
of each building.
That's right.
That's a good point. So because you've seen so many of these types of insurance and the different terms, what would you say, what would qualify as good insurance in your mind as far as deductibles and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so it always is kind of a sliding scale. So you want insurance that kind of fits your needs, and a good insurance broker will have that conversation with you. But you want to look at in the event that I needed this roof replaced, how much would this deductible be? $10,000 is usually pretty good for any commercial property. It's pretty low. If you have a large commercial property, maybe 25,000 is not a big deal. 100,000 or more is the amount that you are self-insuring. I don't know any real estate investor that's comfortable just paying $100,000 out of pocket for a unexpected event. Very, very few ever keep that amount and want to self-insure that much. And it becomes much, much harder to absorb the deductible. With a lot of the contractors that I work with, will absorb my fee into their profits and will absorb the deductible. But if it's $100,000, they're not doing that. If it's 10 and you give them a $500,000 roof, 100% we can get that done. So you do kind of want to look at how big the property is and then how much that deductible is. And then the hail and wind deductible. Oh, here's another thing you always want to avoid. If you're doing a metal roof in any way, they want to give you a cosmetic exclusion, which means that if the roof is damaged, that damage, direct physical damage by the hailstorm, but they determine that it's cosmetic and not structural, that's now a get out of jail free card for them. Never, ever, ever have a cosmetic exclusion on your roof.
Okay, got it. Okay, all right, so that's good stuff. One question was, I think you mentioned this, but can you speak about a pipe burst again? I don't think that qualifies under acts of God, but can you speak to, pipe burst and water damage as a result?
Yeah, and a pipe burst is actually very similar to a hailstorm as a claim. You're going to have your pipe's going to burst. It's going to flow water. The water is going to get in the walls. Water will get in the floors. You need emergency services a lot of times for that, which have a cost, and that's separate. And then tear out the demo has to be done very quickly, or mold will start to grow. Insurance companies are also very likely to try to avoid the mold cost, so they'll want to replace drywall, but only up to a certain point, and then they don't want to replace other things. There's a lot of hidden damage with a water claim inside the building that insurance company would love to just look over. If you can't see it, I can't see it. We'll put some paint on the wall, and who cares that there's mold inside that wall, because it's now a ticking time bomb. And what they would love to do is get out as quick as they can, drop you next year, and then now it's somebody else's problem. Happens all the time.
Hey, the snowpocalypse that came through Texas that did create a bunch of burst pipes. I mean, the snowstorm itself technically is an act of God, but the pipe burst. Were there insurance companies that were sort of trying to evade that as a payout?
Absolutely. They're many and often.
Yeah.
A pipe burst is generally always covered. But they'll try to find different ways to get out of it, or just underpay. The most common is underpay. They will deny if they can, but if they're totally locked in, this is my liability. What's the least amount I can get away with?
Got it. Okay. All right. I know we're at the end of our time. Any other questions from anyone? One question is how folks can get a hold of you. So I've added your contact information here, Josh. Well, I can't tell you enough, man, how valuable this is for me, for our team. I mean, we are looking for any and every way that is permissible to be able to maximize our value for us and our investors. And so knowing and having met you and knowing about these strategies has been super helpful. So thank you so much. Any parting words for the group here and just in general?
Oh yeah, I absolutely love it. Again, thank you for having me on. The way that we work is just give me a call or shoot me an email. I just need the address of the property, and I can find a ton of information about it. When it was last hit from the weather, and then maybe we go take a look at that property. Every single deal is going to be case by case, but that's exactly what I do. That's my job. So shoot me an email with whatever you have, or give me a call and we can talk about this deal, that deal. If it comes through, great. If it doesn't come through, that's fine. I really only do commercial and like large multifamily residential. But if there's smaller stuff like single family houses, I can refer you somebody. I am here for a resource. You can not talk to me in a year. You can call me 2 years from now, and all of a sudden you need me. Give me a call. My phone number will be the same, and I'll be right there for you.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks again so much, man. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for the guys that joined and anybody who hears this later on. Take care and God bless you guys. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.